All right, so let's change things just a little and go back to sort of more of a view of someone using the system. And I'd sort of love to introduce Sanket from Coupa. Welcome, Sanket. And Hans, is he with you?
Yeah.
Did he run out crying? Nope. Okay. And so, as Sanket and sort of Hans go through this thing, the thing I'd really like to thank you guys for is that it's so hard, and this is an appeal to all of you, to get great use case stories that we can put on our website. And you guys have been phenomenal telling us about your 7-step process. It wasn't 12, but I do think I have a monitoring problem, so I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of your talk. Thanks so much. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. How are you guys doing today? Wonderful. I mean, that was a great morning, huh? I mean, can you imagine? I mean, I'm going home learning an entirely new language thanks to Paul here. I mean, that was fantastic. So what we wanted to do is we have been using Influx for a little close to 2 years now, I would say. And so we wanted to talk to you guys about how we look at it, like, and how are we using Influx, some of the ideas we have. And again, this is about sharing experiences. And so it's both telling us sharing with you guys what we're doing, but also looking to get feedback and hear from you how you're thinking about these things. So let me get started with this. So how many of you have heard of Coupa? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, not bad. And then how many of you use Coupa at work? Okay. All right, so I guess we should log the exits and get everyone else signed up here. So just quickly, what Coupa is we, the Coupa was founded with the objective of bringing an Amazon-like experience, a purchasing experience, to the business world. And so so whether you are a developer who's trying to buy something for work, like a laptop, mouse, or you're a manager in one of the stores out here on the street who's trying to buy supplies for their store, or you are a nurse working in a hospital, you're trying to buy medical supplies for the hospital, what Coupa provides is this very frictionless, user-centric experience to allow you to purchase these things. And what we have done is, where we are now today is we are a public company. We have over 700 customers across the world. We integrate with 4 million suppliers. We have all of our customers pushing through billions of dollars through the system across more than 100 countries. And as we, so there's an interesting story here which I thought I could share with you in the vein of this conference, right? So I was walking into the conference today morning and I saw this sign right next to the entrance which said, create, inspire, and share, right? And I think that was pretty cool. I think that kind of reflects the sense of what we're trying to do here. And it's interesting because our user conference is called Inspire. And we have the European edition of that going on in London right now. But what I wanted to bring up here is how we as technology companies can really innovate to help our community. So for example, we were in a similar situation as Influx is today. We had taken money from investors. We were trying to prove a concept. We had quite a few customers. And we really wanted to give back, right? A lot of us do. We wanted to give back, but we could not figure out, we tried different approaches, and all of them meant taking money that our investors had given us and then giving it to someone else, and we couldn't really get our heads around that. So we came up with a solution where what we did is we went to some of our suppliers and say, can you give us a volume discount? And then for those Coupa customers who used those suppliers, they got that volume discount, and we got a small percentage of that. And by doing that, we were able to create this pool of money that we're able to give back to the community. So there's hundreds of charities we are giving to, and we have given back in the lower millions. But I just wanted to kind of introduce this thing. There's so many things that we can do using the expertise we have within the space that we are in, but come up with innovative ways that we can give back to the community. So going back to our Influx story. Sorry, I didn't mean just to. Okay, so going back to our Influx story. So where we were about 2 years ago is that at that point in time, we had hundreds of customers. We had some legacy solutions for monitoring. We had, and we are trying to scale. And we looked at many monitoring solutions. I think we kind of looked at almost everyone who was within the monitoring space, did demos with them, did evaluations with them. And what we quickly realized is that we are trying to tactically solve the problems we have today. We're not really thinking about how are we going to scale this over the next 5 to 10 years. So we did some research on how are other companies thinking about it. We talked to some of our peers, and we couldn't find a framework that we could use. And we are very success criteria centric. So whenever we come up with something, we want to measure it. We want to figure out that it's working, and we want to tweak it if things are not working. And so what we came up with is kind of a monitoring maturity model. And so the first stage of this monitoring maturity model, and again, this is something which is a combination of things we are doing currently, but also some things that are aspirational, right? So if you guys see areas where you guys are doing better than us, we are always open to feedback for you to come talk to us and tell us how we could be doing better. But the first thing is collecting data. I mean, we had a number of point solutions. We had something for APM, we had something for business process monitoring, we had something for system monitoring. And then we were trying to come up with solutions in different places, right? So the first thing we said is we want to have all of that data pumping into one system. That's where it starts. Once we have all of the data, you can start doing a lot of interesting things. So kind of going back to my Coupa example, because we are running all the transactions for all of our customers through our system, we can actually enable a lot of things like early payment discounts from suppliers or volume discounts from suppliers. So you can do a lot of interesting things. So that was the first goal, is make sure that all of our servers, our flow logs, all of the microservices, everything's pumping data into one place. And that's kind of where things like Telegraph shine, right? Because they can be provisioned in in all of the systems. So now that we have the data in place, then you can. So just to give you a sense of how our operations is structured, we have global support centers in 3 major locations across the world. We have people here in the US. We have a center in India, and we have a center in Ireland. And so we do a follow-the-sun model for our operations across these 3 support centers. And so we want to enable our engineers to be able to quickly correlate and take action. And so Hans will go through an example of how we are doing that with Influx. But now that we have this data, and we have the data from all of our systems, we can do more complex queries. It's not limited to you do query in one system and someone manually is trying to correlate it to that other system. So we have found that we are able to quickly triage a lot of incidents pretty much when we get alerted about it. So next step then is trending. So we, now that we have all of this data and we have this data over time, we are able to now do forecasting. So for example, with the legacy systems that we had, some of the challenges we had with these legacy monitoring systems were that, these, as I mentioned, they were point solutions. A lot of them had data retention policies where we would lose older data. It wouldn't get summarized. Some of the data was in SAS data stores, so we didn't have the data. It was in different places. We had problems with doing visualization across aggregates. So we could do visualization in different places, but if you can imagine the operations engineer is trying to do a visualization in one screen, then correlating it to a different screen. And so we wanted to have a single pane of glass across all of the data that we had. And then whenever we wanted to write a new monitor, it was always challenging. It was either you had to live within the constraints that the monitoring solution gave you, or you had to pretty much do like a coding exercise to write monitors. And then it was hard to scale the system, right? So one of the things that we wanted to do was being able to look at trends and then be able to do capacity planning based on the trends. So it's a combination of doing trending to figure out what the current trends are, to be able to maybe fix some problems or to prepare for certain things, but also be able to look out in the future and see how we can forecast future scenarios and maybe do provisioning for that. And then this is where the next step is kind of where it starts getting into beyond the current state of what most people are doing. And this kind of goes to what Evan was mentioning in the morning, where this it's about being able to do things automated, being able to really leverage machines. I have this great quote I always remember is where if it's without automation, if you have all these servers running without automation, then all the servers get together at night and laugh at the humans who are running them, right? So this is kind of, we really want to leverage the machines to be able to do more now that we have the data to do it. And so one of the first things is being able to find those use cases where we can automatically remediate, automatically find a root cause. So this could be, for example, maybe there's an engineer who goes through a manual set of steps. Maybe there's a run book. Maybe there's a thought process. Maybe there's a methodology. And can we take those steps and can we create possible root causes? So again, maybe there are situations where you can say, okay, this is the root cause and you can pinpoint it. But most of the times you cannot pinpoint one root cause, right? So it's kind of an expert learning system where you show the engineer that these are three possible root causes, and just accelerate the time to remediate the issue, right? So that's another thing that we wanted to do. And then the next thing is auto remediation. Again, it's kind of an extension now that you're getting better at finding the root cause. Can we remediate it automatically? So for example, one example of this could be based on the alerts, based on the monitoring, can we maybe auto scale, right? And again, probably most of you are doing that in some shape or form, but being able to do in a broader sense. And then the last piece is kind of going from there and being able to do more predictive stuff. So for example, you're able to do forecasting. What if you can actually put in scenarios into your model? So you have built a model, you add scenarios to the model and be able to see what the outcome could be without actually the incident happening, right? So being able to replay maybe transaction logs, being able to inject events into your model and being able to see outcomes, and then pretty much being able to model for that versus actually having the event happen to you and then responding to it, right? So that's kind of how we look at this. And again, it would be great to have feedback. We'll be here afterwards if how people think about this. So what I want to do next is then hand over to Hans, who's going to talk through some of these use cases of how we're using Influx.
All right, thank you, Sanket. How many people are site reliability engineers supporting operations? Like to see that? Good. So we have a good participation. So at Coupa, I'm responsible for the site reliability engineering function, and as part of that, as we all know, we want to ensure our customer success using our products and services as they're running on the Coupa platform. And so it's very important for us to have deep insight into the usage and performance. What I want to do today is talk through a couple of use cases that we used that align with the maturity model. So to give you perspective, we have our platform is deployed globally. It's running in Asia Pacific, the US, and the EMEA regions. And we have customers coming and using our product from over 100 different countries. And the challenge that we've had in the past is, as Sanket had mentioned, we had a lot of point solutions that really didn't allow us to do anything but basic, to do analysis beyond sort of basic constructs. So we actually had selected Tick, brought the framework in, and so that actually enabled us to do much more advanced things. So the first thing is just collecting a lot of metrics from across the platform, whether it's a system, the platform services, the application services. And from that, what you see here is this global wallboard. And it's a very simple, high-level view of the state of our platform. So you'll see we have load balancer metrics that telling us the number of connections that are coming in, if we're having any failures, and if we have the latency. In addition, we're trending the number of transactions that are coming through the environment, looking at a database metric. But in the lower right-hand corner, we have our background job queue count. And so within Coupa, we do a lot of job processing. And job processing for those who might not know, that's generally where we have non-interactive work being done. So things that it can be an inbound integration where a customer is doing a data load. Maybe they're updating a supplier table, a chart of accounts, the user listing. Those are actually submitted into the system. We use Redis Rescue to process our job. So create the job, put it in a queue, and then we have workers assigned to actually perform that work. And so our architecture is such that while it's a shared platform and we have customers hosted using the shared infrastructure, we have discrete what we call server pods. So we may have, for instance, 100 customers sitting on a discrete set of systems, and then we have an X number of pods within that environment. So being able to troubleshoot if we see a problem with our job processing was very difficult. And with the Tick stack, we're able to actually aggregate all that data and get a global view. And one of the metrics that we introduced was that we instrumented for was really, again, the queue count, right? How deep is a queue that we actually have for that customer? So is it an email queue? Is it, again, it could be an event where we're flipping a purchase requisition into a PO, and we have to do a PO transmission to the supplier. It's important for us to be able to get to that level of detail. So in this particular example, what you can see is that we had an increase in job queues, right? So is that a problem, right? Maybe something has failed in the environment. Maybe there is not enough workers provisioned, or it could be that somebody just put in a very large integration job, right? How do we figure that out? And so with Influx, we were able to do is to aggregate the data, give us a top-level view, and then we could click into that panel and drill down to that next level. So now at the second level, we can figure out what region are we actually seeing the increase in the queue count. And again, from there, we're able to go down to the server pod. So we include in the metric a tag that tells us where that metric was sent from. And we can see where the work is being generated and actually get down to the actual customer and the actual queue. And that's a big deal. It seems very trivial now, but the ability for somebody to come in here very quickly and get down to this in a matter of a minute versus spending half an hour trying to diagnose it is significant. And now they can focus on triaging the problem. So in the next example is around our trending and forecasting, so moving up in the chain. And our customers are using our products differently. right? Each customer, we have customers across all the different verticals. So in this example, we may have a bank, a healthcare provider, and a retailer. And some of them have very predictable patterns in how they're using our products, how they're transacting in the system. But maybe every quarter they have a month-end reports or an increase in activity. And another customer may have a similar shape or pattern, but it's offset a little bit. And then last, we might have a retail customer who maybe they have seasonality. So maybe they have an event in the middle of summer that's driving a lot of activity into their site, or maybe it's like we're coming up on the holiday season now, so we can see a big increase in the amount of transactions coming in. That translates into resource usage on our platform that we want to be able to identify. How are the customers interacting with each other? What does it look like in aggregate? So that we can then proactively look at, are there any trends we can see? Are we seeing growth happening? Do we need to make adjustments and scale our platform? So we can horizontally scale very well. We have a lot of the capability to do that. But sometimes maybe we have a single customer who's onboarded a lot more users, or maybe they've changed their profile, they haven't seen a lot of growth. We need to move workloads around. So being able to look at and identify these patterns on our different pieces of infrastructure and make decisions about where workloads would be is very powerful for us. And then last is something that we're aspiring to do. And I was talking to a gentleman who is providing a machine learning solution. But we have all this data now collected in Influx. And while we have certain algorithms that we're applying to our data set so we can see the trends, we can predict things, there's very complex use case scenarios that we like to surface. So, for instance, maybe there's changes in user patterns or behaviors that we can't see that are affecting the utilization of the environment. We'd like to be able to feed this into a machine learning engine and be able to take those out. So it might be, for instance, our job processing. We have jobs that are occurring. There's a high concurrency at certain times during the days and during the weeks. How can we identify those so that we can maybe build a better model for scheduled reports, so that our customers are implementing and we're randomizing when those jobs run, as opposed to having them land on the same point in time and creating situations where we have high load events. In other situations, maybe we're seeing certain types of transactions that might be causing impact to the environment, and we can feed that back into understanding where that is, and feed that back into the product team so they can maybe we can implement more limits or controls around ensuring that we can preserve and ensure the performance and capability. And as Sanket mentioned earlier as well, the ability for us today, we have capability where we have an event and we can grow and scale our environment and shrink it. But wouldn't it be better if we can identify what the patterns are, scale up appropriately so that we have that that capacity available for that demand, and then subsequently shrink it down. So maybe on the weekends, our customers generally are enterprise customers, so they are processing with us during the normal work week. Weekends tend to be a lower period of processing. Can we shrink the environment down? We can save some money doing so. So in summary, Influx really is a framework for us. It's provided us a capability that allows us to mature our monitoring of the environment, right? Not just only collecting, but going through the trending and forecasting, right? And starting to now think about the more advanced use cases. And so I think what the takeaway is that it's not just, it's a constant ongoing process of identifying things that we can do that will help improve your environment. So I'm excited to be here and would love to meet with the community. If there are use cases, we have more use cases up here that we're thinking of. If there are use cases that you've solved that you see up here, I'd love for you to share them with us. We'll be here all day. And thank you. Any questions?
So I got a question for you. So what kind of volumetrics are you talking for your use cases? Like cardinality? I think my voice is loud enough, but we'll see. So what kind of volumetrics are you talking about in terms of the kind of data that you're using? I mean, are you pushing, you know, some of the same limits that we heard earlier in terms of the OEM usage that, you know, MuleSoft is doing at pretty high numbers? Are you doing some of those same kind of, you know, seriously pushing the limit? And how do you find, you know, how do you actually work through that with the folks?
Early on, where we're seeing high cardinality, so we're collecting metrics at the system and platform level, but at the application layer, we've been working very closely with the development and product teams to instrument their applications. And that's where we're seeing a lot of a very high cardinality. But generally, we're not at the level that MuleSoft was reporting. So.
Yeah, I think to give you a sense of scale, we primarily use Amazon as our cloud service provider. We are multi-cloud, and we run in 7 regions across the world, and we have tens of thousands of compute cores that we're running. So that's generally the scale. And it's a highly transactional system, and so we're generating events from all these compute cores and all the transactions. But as you said, I think in certain places we are not quite hitting the limits that that MuleSoft would see.
So how do you calculate your ROI then? You're getting a return on that investment. Do you have numbers that you can share?
On the Influx investment?
Yeah.
I think, I mean, that's a great question. I think in terms of ROI, for us, it was a replacement. So it actually was, I mean, there's different ways to do it, right? If you're starting out fresh, that's a net new cost. For us, it was a replacement, and the replacement, it's much more economical. I mean, as Evan said earlier, it's one of the most cost-effective solutions in the market. So for us, it just worked out that we could do much more in capabilities than we could previously do for a fraction of the cost. But I think the main thing is what the title of the last slide. I mean, we think of Influx as a platform. Yes, tactically we are using it for monitoring, we're using it for alerting, but there's much more we can do with it.
What type of deployment do you use, and how much resources does it consume?
What was the question?
I'm sorry, I'm blinded by this slide.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay, there you are.
What type of deployment do you use, like Influx, Enterprise, Cloud, and
we're using
how big are they?
He's right,
and how much resources?
We're using the enterprise solution, so we're hosting them within AWS. We have, I think it's a 5-node cluster on the back end.
And each node consumes how much memory and what is ingest rate?
I don't know. I don't recall. I forget what instance type we're actually using. I know Dave is here. He helped us with this.
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, we can take that offline if you want to talk about it. But essentially, we chose enterprise because this was prior. We started using it prior to cloud being available, and there are certain things. I mean, we are a financial technology company, and there's certain things we can put in the cloud. Interestingly, some certain things we can't. And so for example, with logging, we are more careful. With metrics, we are more careful than we would be with some other things.
It's me. You know what this means. The host that just keeps on saying thank you, and questions at lunch will be good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Sanket.
Thank you, everyone.